Good evening to all. In the name of Založba Pivec Publishing, I welcome you to this lovely evening event. My name is Zala Stanonik and I'm the manager of the publishing house. I am very glad to present to you one of our best-selling authors, but also one of the top writers of crime fiction in Slovenia, Avgust Demšar. Let me express first and foremost a warm welcome to him in particular, as he is our guest of honor this evening. Good evening, dear Avgust Demšar. He will share with us interesting insights into his writing and characters, and he will also do a little reading for you. Of course, it's customary to tell you something about the author. The name Avgust Demšar is actually a pen name of Tomaž Zupančič. The author lives and works in Maribor, Slovenia, the second largest city in our country, and also the base of our publishing house. He is the country's most popular crime writer, and his work has been nominated for the prestigious Kresnik Novel of the Year award 4 times. He was first published in 2007, and since then he has published 11 novels. The 12th one is coming out in the beginning of 2024. His work has also been translated. At the Frankfurt Book Fair, we received copies of the Arabic edition of Abazia Hotel, which is his 5th novel, and we are awaiting Ukrainian editions of 2 of his novels and also one in Brazilian Portuguese. And hopefully tonight's event will encourage an English edition, so you all will soon be able to read Demšar in the UK as well. Apart from the Demšar books, our publishing house also produces original and translated literary fiction, children's books, scientific monographs, books from the fields of the humanities, medicine and social sciences, dictionaries, handbooks, and course books, and we hold a small record label. For Slovenian circumstances, we are considered a mid-sized publisher. Apart from the production of books, we are also engaged in promoting reading, and we organize around 80 literary events annually. That's enough about us. Let us start with tonight's program, and as I said before, let me give a warm welcome to Avgust Demšar, who will start his performance with a little bit of reading. Demšar will read from his 7th novel entitled Miloš, and I'll leave the introduction to the novel to him. So, dear Avgust Demšar, the stage is set for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening to all. About the reading, well, according to schedule, I should do some readings now for 15 minutes, but on rehearsal on Monday, after 10 minutes, they asked me not to read because they cannot follow my reading, so I prepare something else. I would like to talk about Miloš, and I will represent you the idea, the basic idea for this novel, and then I will represent you the plot from the beginning to the end with a free short reading in duration of approximately 2 minutes each. And I will share the screen because a lot of pictures are always part of my thinking, because my basic professional is art, visual art. Okay, let's start it. My novel, with title Miloš, was written between 2011 and 2014-15. That was the time when in Slovenia, the new family code was a big topic in Slovenian politics and public discourse. Well, the family code tried to equate, like in other countries, the rights of gay and lesbian people with the rights of major popularity, meaning concerning the legal status of marriage, the right to adopt children, etc. As in many countries, in Slovenia, we were faced with the anxious and wild contradiction to the code as seen on the first picture. Well, protests came from the politically right-wing oriented population, and the core of this contradiction lies in a deep and strong homophobia. It was one evening. This is one article in newspaper about the protests. And the idea came one evening. I was watching the television news. And there was a report from the protest against the family code in front of the Slovenian parliament. I saw a middle-aged woman dressed in national costume, wildly screaming and protesting. She was totally upset, loud. Her eyes, her look was not normal. I got the feeling that she was prepared to die. She was prepared to kill in order to prevent gay and lesbian population to get the rights that belongs to the rest of the population. I didn't understand, but that's my problem. Then I, as a writer, then I ask myself, what would have happened if this woman came home to her family, whom she loves endlessly, to the family of which she's so proud, and then her beloved teenage son came to her in the kitchen and said, "Mother, I have to admit you something, I'm gay." What would happen inside this woman? How would she react? What would she done? How far this situation could go and where all this could end? This is what the crime novel Miloš was about. Let's start with the story. In Miloš, there is a mother, a family-loving, children-adoring mother, protective, reliable, and dominant mother. And there's a father, silent and subordinate father, silent and subordinate husband. And there are a teenage son and some years younger teenage daughter. This is the family. Let's first meet the mother with the first reading. On Thursday, 4th of October 2012, 47-year-old Ljuba Hočevar was making her family's favorite dish, Moroccan chicken with plain rice. This dish was on the Hočevar's menu once a week, always on the same time. And the reason was not that they have never got tired of its slightly exotic taste, but something else. The Moroccan chicken tasted just as good, if not even better, when reheated, which was very convenient on Thursday when dear Carl had a long day. He would come home late on Tuesdays too, but he was not nearly as hungry then as he was on Thursdays. Perhaps he didn't have time for a proper lunch on Thursdays. Either way, when he gets home at 7:30 tonight, it will be a joy to watch him polish off the food on his plate and then use a piece of bread to sop up all the sauce left in the pan. When the 20 minutes were up, Ljuba uncovered the saucepan with the rice, gave it a gentle stir with a mixing spoon to make sure it hadn't got stuck to the bottom, nodded her head in satisfaction, then used the fork to pick out the cloves. Her family did not like cloves, whole peppercorns, bay leaves, and the like in their food. But anyhow, any real housewife take them out anyway. And Ljuba was a real housewife. She then turned to the pan with the meat. What she was about to do would give the dish its distinctive flavor. She carefully removed the tender pieces of meat from the pan, placed them on the plate, and put the plate in the oven preheated to 50 degrees Celsius. She added 20 black olives into the pan, crushed any remaining lemon wedges with a fork, turned the heat up to maximum, and brought the sauce to a boil. When the sauce has thickened, She turned the meat to the pan and lowered the heat. There, the perfect meal for my perfect family, she thought contentedly. But nothing, it's not everything so perfect, because there's a fear in the family. The loving and adoring mother lives in fear. There are signs that her son is not normal. Well, not normal. There are signs that there is a severe illness in the family. That her beloved son does not fancy the opposite sex. That he is sexually attracted to the same sex. When he was 7, he said to her that when he grows up, he will marry his best schoolmate, male schoolmate. From then on, the mother was watchful of signs that her son is not really homosexual, not gay, not one of these politically correct words. No, the mother was afraid that her son is a stinky, filthy homosexual. Fortunately, there was no more signs. Thank God. When last year her beloved son became a member of a small but loud group of skinheads, she was definitely relieved. Okay, these skinheads are a bunch of idiots, but at least they are not homosexuals. They even hate homosexuals. And then there came last Saturday. It was at midnight when the mother stepped out of the flat onto the balcony. Something was in the air. She could not sleep. The air was humid in the bedroom, and there was a full moon. And then she saw it. Down there, in front of the main entrance to their block, and exactly under the street lamp, there stood her son, and there was this new neighbor, this foreign young man, one of the suspicious young couple, 2 men who moved in last month and now live together. And then this young foreign kisses her son. And then they laughed and held each other's hands. The mother froze. That was a severe treat to her family. That was a direct attack to her son's illness. And such severe treats must be removed. The protective, adoring mother must act. And she did. She committed a murder. Let's meet the body. The second reading is about the victim. Now we are at the mortuary. There's a forensic pathologist there, and there's of course the body of this young boy. And there's a Miloš, a new detective in town, and there's a Drago, the old detective in town. He was badly beaten, said Miloš, looking at the injuries of the man's face. Said the forensic pathologist, who had just walked over to the table trying on a green apron and pulling on rubber gloves. And you are? Miloš, said Miloš, nodding. You are the new guy? Not really, Miloš didn't bother to explain. Anything unusual about these injuries? He was transferred to our station. He's working with me all the moment. This is our case, Drago explained. Pleased to meet you, said the pathologist. We won't inconvenience you any longer. We just need to check his identity so we can crack on with the investigation. Drago beckoned to Miloš as if to say, let's go, we're done here. An interesting question, said the pathologist. What question? Drago asked. There really is something peculiar about these injuries, the pathologist said to Miloš. It's as if they had been inflicted in a fit of rage. None of these blows would have been enough to cause death by itself. The worst is the one to the top of his head. That kind of sustained trauma too would kill a man. But these blows to his face, I don't know, they're kind of, it's impossible that he got them while he was lying on the ground, perhaps after he had already died. And then he added, somebody must have really hated this guy. After killing the boy who dared to kiss her son, it was not over, because there is another threat in the family, to the family. It is a call girl, Nina. She's the one who is meeting the silent and subordinate father of the family every Thursday. Yes, on those Thursdays when the Moroccan chicken is on the menu and when he's coming home late and very, very hungry. And then the mother again thinks in the same way. It is not the fault of her husband that he is meeting a prostitute. That is in men's nature. Men can do nothing against their sex drive. The filthy whores are guilty. Well, after crossing the Rubicon of murder, stepping beyond the point of no return, everything is easier. The next murder is technically not murder at all, it is just a suitable method to achieve a goal. And then mother kills again. But before that, let's now, with the third reading, meet Nina when she was still alive. Nina is a student from Maribor, a very successful student of economics and occasional call girl. Here we are meeting her for the first time in the novel when she is entering the home of one of her customers. A man appeared at the door. The doors Nina stops at are always answered by men. So there was one exception. For about 2 months during last winter, a woman met her at the door. About 30 years old, elegant, nice, financially well situated. A doctor or a lawyer, something like that. This is how Nina sees the experience today. Interesting and not at all unpleasant. Nina took less than a second to assess the person standing in front of her. Practice makes perfect. Furthermore, men never notice Nina's critical once over because they are doing the same thing in the moment. So their eyes are less critical and more filled with lust. They stare at Nina's long legs and start sweating in anticipation of what is to come. Tall, about 50 years old, maybe a bit older, not unpleasant looking. A man's man, so to speak. At least at first glance, he looked neat and clean. And now, very importantly, there was not bad odor coming from the apartment. That can be a problem. Nina's nose was extremely sensitive, and her stomach could not tolerate, say, the smell of store-bought goulash, tripe, and other stuff thing that single men enjoy eating. In addition, Nina could not tolerate the smell of musty rooms that had not seen fresh air in a while. The smell of dirty feet and weak old socks, she had experienced this too, made her sick to her stomach, and she had similar problems with toilet smell and the overpowering stench of cheap men's perfumes and aftershave lotions. In such extreme cases, Nina would turn around and walk away without saying a word, keeping an eye on her back and her hand clutching a bottle of pepper spray in her pocket. She kept the spray on her in case the disappointed man didn't agree with her departure and tried to get her to stay. Okay, after the second murder, detectives in Maribor are puzzled. There are two bodies. There are two murders committed within the same week. Both murders have nothing in common. The bodies were found in totally different parts of the city. The victims certainly did not know each other, except there's one thing. Both murders have the identical MO. They were killed in the same way. Somebody smashed their faces with frenzy, wild anger, hate, and rage. Meanwhile, on the other side, everything is fine. There are no more threats to the beloved family. The mother is happy and satisfied. Until the next party in the nearest bar a few days later, from where the beloved son comes home drunk and in a special mood. It's late at night when he comes to her in the kitchen and admits to her that he's a gay and that he's sick of hiding and that he will announce this fact to the whole world. And he will also say that he's proud of being gay. Then the mother starts speaking loudly, and he starts yelling, and she starts yelling, and he opens the balcony door and steps outside, and the mother goes after him, and he says that he will announce to the world that he's a gay right now in the middle of the night over the balcony. Let all the neighbors hear it. Here, this is happening. And then the mother jumps at him, and he is standing near the fence, and she wants to quiet him down, but instead of this, she pushes him, and in the next moment, her beloved son lies down there in front of the main entrance, on the concrete, right there, where some days ago he kisses the simpatico foreign boy. Now the detectives and the readers in the novel are even more puzzled, because the third victim of the novel is one of the main suspects. The detectives and the readers, of course, have no idea what's going on. They think that the son is just one of the local skinheads. Okay, to shorten the story, the great finale. At one moment, the main detective, Miloš, puts everything together. All the tiny details, all the illogical statements, etc. are now fitting together. The puzzle is solved. He jumped in the car and drives to the blocks of flat. At the same time, a drama is going in one of the blocks of flat at Ljubljanska Street in Maribor. The teenage daughter announced to her parents that she made a decision. Now, when her brother is dead, they, his family, are obliged to honor his wishes. She was, of course, aware that her brother is gay, and she knows that he wanted to come out. Therefore, after his death, this is the task of his family. So she will come out for her brother, she will spread the announcement through social media, and she will do this immediately. This is her duty, this is what she and the family owes to her dead brother. And then the mother's face turns pale again. Meanwhile, Miloš comes to the blocks of flat, parks the car, runs through the main entrance to the stairs and look up. And there, on the 6th floor, he sees a teenage girl hanging over the fence. And there is a pair of hands that are pushing her over the fence. The next moment, the girl starts to fall down. Fuck, says Miloš, steps in the middle of the stairs and spread his arms to catch the falling body. He succeeds. The girl lands safely in his hands. But something pops loudly when Miloš's spine cracks. Fortunately, the girl is just minorly hurt. And then there's a final twist. The other detectives run up to the stairs to catch the mad murderer. They, and of course the readers, expect to see one of three main suspects, the silent and subordinate father, or the homophobic, xenophobic, and everybody phobic neighbor, or the third one, the boyfriend of the first victim. But instead of them, they find her, they find the mother. She's sitting on the stairs and staring at them emptily, without any expression and feeling. She has finally lost herself and has drowned in madness. In her pathologic hatred for gay and lesbian people, in her fear that the shame of her family will become common knowledge, in fear of public opinion, and in her madly struggle to protect the family, she forced herself not only to become a murderer, but also to commit a filicide. That's the end. Oh yes, Miloš was just badly injured, but he survives. After 6 months of sick leave, or better, after 1 year of my writing, he appears in my next novel. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Avgust Demšar. We received a message in the chat box by Tina, who said this is absolutely brilliant and beautifully translated, which made me think I had to tell you who the translator is as well. It is Christina Alice Waller. She is not here today, but of course, she is anxious about our developments with Avgust Demšar in the future, and will be very glad to hear that her translation is so good. Now we are going over to the second part of the evening. I also welcome our colleague, Saira Aspinall, who has put together this nice event. Thank you very much, Saira, for helping us out. She will host an interesting interview with Demšar. Shall you have any questions for the author, please write them down in the chat box, and Saira will manage those at the end of the interview. And that's it, dear Saira and Avgust Demšar, you can begin with the interview.
Thank you, Zala, and thank you, Avgust, for being here tonight and for sharing some of your characters' most extreme characteristics with us just then. That was fantastic. As Zala said, if anyone in the audience has a question, then we'd love to hear them. So please just pop them in the chat box, and I will get to those after our planned questions now. So to start our question and answer session, Avgust, I'd like to ask you the most obvious question. What first attracted you to writing about murder?
Thanks for the question. And I have to correct you, I'm not writing about the murder. The murder or the corpse is simply something that, according to S.S. Van Dyne, there must be in a detective novel. In my writing, it's better to say that I am dedicated to the rules of crime fiction as a literary genre, particularly the subgenre of detective fiction, or better, of whodunit. Therefore, I am not dealing with the murder, I'm dealing, I hope so, with intelligent puzzles, with clues, with red herrings, suspense, twist, etc. I hate murder and violence, but I really enjoy creating whodunit puzzles. But it is also true that I use my writing for thematizing the pathology of human nature. I'm writing about lies and deceit, about tragic individuals who cross the Rubicon and commit a murder, about frustration, traumas, etc. And very shortly, the intention of my writing could be social and psychological realism, and the method I'm using is just whodunit.
Of course, thank you. You're totally right. You're not really writing about murder. You're writing about the ways that people behave, aren't you? And the ways that people find each other out as well. So we framed this event this evening as an introduction to crime fiction from Slovenia. But you showed us some pictures there in your presentation of Maribor. And I think we could almost call your work crime fiction from Maribor, as the city plays a very big part in your books. Can you tell us a little bit about how the city inspired your writing and how you see Maribor characterized in your books?
Okay, thank you. I think that I must introduce the city to the audience, and I will share the screen again. This is Maribor. Maribor is the second largest city in Slovenia. Now currently has a little less than 100,000 inhabitants. But this is not the problem. The problem in Maribor is that 35 years ago, Maribor had at least 30% more inhabitants, and the city was one of the 3 biggest industrial areas in former Yugoslavia. So after the disintegration of Yugoslavia in the beginning of 1990s, the industry in Maribor, we were proud to have the heavy industry, textile industry, car industry, shoes industry, big buildings companies, everything collapsed. So Maribor lost its identity and became just one of the victims of transition. Now, 35 years later, the situation in my city in Maribor is slightly better, but the identity crisis, the lack of optimism, the prospects are still a problem. Yes, we do have a university in Maribor, for example, but the main and the only symbol of Maribor identity is still the football. You will never forget that the Liverpool played in Maribor in our ground some years ago. Okay, we lost 0-7, but that's not important. Maybe Maribor could be compared with the Manchester, especially the one. I have never been in Manchester, but I have a feeling of the city because I was shown for many times the crime series Cracker, made by Jimmy McGovern and Robbie Coltrane in leading role in the 1990s. So my characters and me, myself, we are the children of this process. We witnesses the collapse, the massive workers' protests, a lot of individual tragedies, and I'm not writing about the city. I'm not writing about transition, about poverty. The city of Maribor is simply the setting for my whodunits, but I think there's some these feelings is in my novels.
Yeah, absolutely. The history of a place kind of pervades the novels, I think. And I think our relationships with our hometowns are always more complex than we realize. And when you're writing about a place you're very familiar with, all of that comes through. So before I ask my next question, Zala is going to share a video for us. And this is just a quick compilation of some scenes from the television adaptation of your early novels. Thank you, Zala. So as you may have guessed from that visual illustration, I'd like to ask you about the cinematic quality of your writing. Obviously, some of your books have already been made into television series here in Slovenia, and they clearly lend themselves very well to that sort of adaptation. Was it a conscious decision of yours to write in this sort of visually very evocative way? And I'm also interested to know if you can really clearly see your settings and your characters when you're writing.
No, it certainly was not a conscious decision to write in a so-called cinematic style. Honestly say, first 10 years of my writing, it did not even occur to me that my stories could find a way on television. But Also, it was not a conscious decision to write in a literary style either. My intention was to offer the reader who is dedicated to crime fiction, like I am for all of my life, a complex and entertaining reader. I want to offer them literature and Sudoku at the same time. The cinematic quality, as you said, it may be the results of my attempts to make my writing engaging. The best praise for my book is the reader's statement that he or she simply could not stop reading till the end. Because my primary profession is visual art, the answer to the second question is yes, I can see setting of my novels and also some of my characters clearly in front of me. But instead of a visual image, I'm trying to get the feel of my characters. I think for writer, this is very important. For example, nowadays, I have to deal with the 6 main characters in my CID. So writing the dialogues, I must get a feeling of them. What kind of thinking, words, phrases are suitable for them as individuals? For example, Miloš, he would say or do something that another character, Martin Vrenko, for example, would not even think of, and so on. And there's another thing I would like to explain you and introduce you with, and this is this. Let's share the screen again. Okay. Well, sometimes I use some specific methods to get into the mind of my characters. For example, one of my suspects in one of my novels was obsessed with the image of William Foster. This is the main character in film Falling Down, made by Joel Schumacher in 1993 with Michael Douglas in the leading role. I think that you are familiar with. And this, my character became so obsessed with this character that he started to dress and behave like the movie character. So my character bought the same shirt, he bought the same trousers, the necktie, the suitcase. He even ordered the same glasses from the United States with the brand of Churon. And so I was playing it, but I did the same. And that's me. Certainly it's not my habit to draw attention to myself, but I had to understand my character. So in this masquerade, I spent a day dressed as my character in public. I don't know if this helped, but okay. The next thing is about the settings. Because I live in Maribor for all of my life, therefore I'm quite familiar with the city and its soul. But when I'm not familiar with the setting, I go there if there's a possibility, visit this place and spend there some time and try to grasp, to feel the atmosphere. This is one of that examples. This, what you see, is a church. It's one of the most popular places of pilgrimage in Slovenia, where in my novel, the church, Slovenian called Cerkev, there was a murder. There was a bishop murdered in the sacristy. So I went there. It's close to Maribor. It's not 40 kilometers away. And I spent there a lot of afternoons sitting on the stairs, walking around, getting in. And I was very interested in sacristy. This is this place here. But there was a problem because I was not able to get in because it was locked. So I had to imagine how the bishop could be murdered inside this place, and so on. That's it. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I love your commitment to developing your characters. So this evening, you've given us a wonderful introduction to your 7th novel, Miloš, and we've chosen to lead with this title for lots of reasons, largely because it is the first novel that introduces the character of Miloš. But I think that all of your novels can be read as standalone titles, as well as part of a larger body of work. And I really don't think it's necessary for readers to start right at the beginning with the first title that you read and read their way through all of them. Would you agree with that? And did you set out to achieve that when you started writing, or did it just happen?
No, I do agree, yes, totally. Because this is my intention. Every single novel is a standalone story. A standalone crime case with a corpse or corpses at the beginning, with a detection, with clues, with suspects, with more corpse if needed, with more detection, the final solution, and of course the final twist. But another part of the series are the lives and personal relationships of my main character, the CID. But the reader who is not familiar with this history of these relationships is still capable to understand and I hope enjoy the plot of each single book. The main characters are developing and have their own dynamics, but this is not the leading part of my novels. Again, I'm not writing about the life of literary characters. The main focus of my novels is the criminal act and solving it. And this is valid for Miloš even more relevant because the new literary character, D.I. Miloš, it's in that novel established for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. So focusing on Miloš, can you tell us a little bit about him? Tell us a little bit about the character. And I'd like to know if you like him.
I can show you Miloš.
Show us.
First, here it is. Here he is. Well, to explain, Miloš is the only of my characters that I see clearly his visual image. Furthermore, he's the only of my characters that I saw him even before I created him. Miloš was created as a response to my main detective, till Miloš, till my seventh novel. This was Martin Vrenko, who at the time when Miloš was written already existed in 6 novels. And after 6 novels and after 6 years of writing, I must admit that I got a little bored with Vrenko. And I missed some characteristic that we cannot expect from Vrenko's personality, which is quite orthodox. Miloš is different. He has no second thoughts. If he has to lie to his superiors, he's capable of slapping, if necessary, some very antipathic, rude, and ignorant suspect. Of course, he's still a positive character who enables a positive identification. About the pictures, creating Miloš, I was attracted, I don't know why, but to the image of a Swedish actor, Dag Malmberg, who at the time when I was writing, I watched him in some films and crime series at the time. I was not attracted with the character he was playing. I was attracted just with the visual image of him. So that's it.
I love seeing that. The way the image of a sort of real man inspired a whole character is very cool. Speaking about him then, you mentioned one of the Scandinavian detective shows that he was in, which I think was called The Bridge in English. And of course, when many people think about crime fiction from Europe, or for sort of us UK audiences, crime fiction in translation, we often think about the Scandinois genre. So were you particularly influenced by any of the Scandinavian writers? And also, do you think that crime fiction from Central Europe and your writing offers something markedly different to what that very established genre offers?
Yes, of course. I was influenced also by some of the Scandinavian authors, but I would like to mention just 2 of them. The first is Håkan Nesser, and the second is, of course, Stieg Larsson. Concerning Nesser, I do admire one of his novels. It's from 1999. It's called Karambol, and I think that in English translation, the title was Hour of the Wolf from 2012, the translation. And there's another thing. Reading Millennium by Stieg Larsson, of course, I enjoy it, but also I was satisfied because I got the confirmation for my own writing that is, next, no matter how modern or temporary crime novel could be, is a lot of classical rules of the genre are still valid and alive. Here I mean the analytic detection, whodunit, where the perpetrator is less suspicious, involving pictures in the novel, maps of the settings, etc., etc. I was a bit confused because I'm using all these rules, but then when I saw a masterpiece like the Millennium Stieg Larsson and he's using the same methods, that's made me satisfied. Well, I would like to share you another picture if we are talking about this. I'm sure that the crime fiction from, as you said, Central Europe offers something new or different. I think that no matter how good and popular the Scandi noir or English crime fiction is, the transfer of it into other place, into our place and culture, it's not the right answer. I think that the crime in crime novels must arise from our own soil. And here in Central Europe or in the Balkans, in comparison to Scandinavia, we don't have the endless plains, we don't have long winters, we don't have 6 months of no daylight, we don't know the problem of insomnia, so on and so on. What we do have here, we are a small community, everybody knows everyone. Murders are typical domestic, a lot of time quite bizarre. Here, the detectives are colorless state officials living on the 6th floor of 9-story blocks of flat and so on. But according to the picture, for the last few years, we are facing, let me say, a new trend called Balkan Noir. Some years ago, there was a book published in Greece with the same title, Balkan Noir. It was edited by Vasilis Danilis, crime and noir writer from Greece, where a lot of short crime and noir stories were collected. The authors, who took part in this book, we came from Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, and of course, Slovenia. And I would like to shortly introduce you the next publication called Alibi, containing the 25 crime and noir short stories, and it was published in 2020 in Slovenia, and containing also authors from Slovenia, Croatia, Greece, and also from some Western countries. So something like Balkan Noir or Central Europe Noir, it's, I don't know, it's alive, but it's here, something it's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's sort of starting. And I think you're completely right that the best crime fiction, it very definitely reveals something about the society in which it's set. And that those sort of tropes of Balkan Noir are kind of just starting to reveal themselves. So final question from me. I know you disagree with me on this, but it's my belief that as an author, you're not always particularly kind to your readers. Your books are full of misdirection and plot twists, which sometimes play on our very worst assumptions and the worst sort of biases that are prevalent in society. So my question is, do you enjoy challenging your readers? And also, how do you plot each novel? Is it very painstaking and detailed, or does the plot come to you sort of all at once in a rush?
Okay. About the first part, that I'm not kind to my readers, I do not agree. I think that I'm very kind to my readers because misdirections and plot twists are exactly what the crime novel fans expect. But you're right about the worst assumption and biases. But nevertheless, my statement about intelligent riddles, entertaining puzzles, and the enjoyment of my novels, well, let's face it, talking about murder, about killing people among themselves, about wading in the cloaca of frustrations and traumas, this cannot be always kind, can it? The second part, I like to talk about this, about the plot development. Yes, it's painstaking, and here I would like to share screen again with you. I'm always starting with this. This is the basic triangle. When I try to answer, before I'm start writing, before I'm start thinking about the plot, about 3 questions: who, whom, and why. Who is the perpetrator? Who is the murderer? Who will be the victim? Who will be killed? And what is the motive for do such a thing? When I have this basic answer to this triangle, then I start writing. The writing I've seen as traveling from the point A to point B. I know where I have to go, but I don't know how will I get there. Certainly, I will not travel like this. And the writing, the process of writing, is something that looks maybe like this. When I started point B, A, I don't know that I will go up and then I will fall down and then I will stay down for a while and so on and so on. This is the process of writing. I would like to show you something more. There's one diagram of the relations in one of my books. Who is connected? It's a sociogram. And I'm studying these things a lot, not just my own. I would like to share you with this one. These are 2 of my analyses of the, I think, one of the English best series last year. It's Endeavor. And this is my analysis of the first and the second episode of season 1. I think that one can learn a lot understanding the relation between characters and the crime fiction of another author. Just to mention Russell Lewis and Anthony Horowitz, which I admire a lot. I love to make a plot for my crime novels, and there's my working place at the time when I am writing, when I'm in the middle of the writing. When I started 15, 17 years ago in 2007, and I wrote my first novel, Oil on the Balcony, it was not a large book. It was written in 3 weeks. But now I need at least a year or 2 to write a new novel. That's it.
I love how much that looks like. It's amazing to see the detail with which you plot. And like you say, as the novels get longer, the time to write them gets longer as well. Thank you, Avgust. There's one question in the chat that I will put to you. Now, obviously, we're partly doing this tonight because we are working on selling translations of your work, some of which have already been published and some which we're hoping will be. There's a question here that's asking you, as an author, how does it make you feel to see your work translated? And is there any kind of anything that you have to reconcile between the differences in languages and, you know, the book sort of moving away from exactly how you wrote it?
What does it mean, reconcile, in English?
Anything that you have to sort of make peace with, or anything. Anything that is it a strange experience that you have to sort of make yourself comfortable with to see your work in other languages, or is it thoroughly, you know, exciting? And
let's hope the first official translation of my book that I got it from the publisher some weeks ago, it was something that I do not understand because it was in Arabic language with the Arabic letters. So I don't have an opinion about that.
A reference, yeah.
But here, with the, I'm not so familiar with English that I could analyze the things and have the opinion. But now, a few days ago, when we are preparing this event, now for the first time, I was reading some of my text in English. I am fluent enough in English to write crime novels in English. That's okay. I do not understand everything, but that's not important. I got the idea. And reading my own text in English, I don't know, but they look similar to some texts that I read it before. For example, now I am reading a very nice novel. It's from Caroline Graham. It's her second novel called Written in Blood in English, because I am very fond of her writing. So yes, I am quite I'm quite satisfied with it. I cannot judge it is good or it's bad. That you should do as a native speaker.
But you enjoy the process.
Yes, of course.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for answering all of my questions and giving us such a wonderful insight into how you write and what your writing means to you and where your ideas come from. It was really fascinating. Zala, I'm going to hand back to you now, if that's okay.
Thank you, Saira, and thank you, Avgust Demšar, for all the interesting insights into the work of and the characters of your books. If there are any inquiries about publishing possibilities of Avgust Demšar works, you can direct them at me or via Saira. So I'm very happy and very glad that you joined us this evening, and I thank every one of you and to all of my colleagues for helping out and for participating. Thank you very much, and have a lovely remaining of the evening.